When in doubt, I write a list of 20 things, roll a 20-sided die, and let that decide where I start. And for some reason, that like breaks me out of the funk of it. And I'm like, okay, I can do that piece. And then I just do that piece. Hey, sunshine. Welcome back to the Neurodivergent Creative Podcast. Today's episode is about executive dysfunction, specifically the way that executive dysfunction can arise from internalized capitalism and burnout. So, we are neurodivergent creatives here, which means that you obviously have creative pursuits, passions, hobbies, talents, skills. Great. When you have executive dysfunction, that means that even if it's something that you want to do, like your creative projects and your hobbies and your passions, you can't start the process because your brain is just stuck in this kind of buffer zone. So what is executive dysfunction? I know that we've talked about it before on the show, but specifically, we're going to talk about it from like an internalized capitalism lens right now. So this particular flavor of executive dysfunction, I believe, comes from like holding yourself to really high productivity standards that you wouldn't hold anybody else to, like, because it's ridiculous. And you can totally see why other people need to rest and recover and make sure that their human needs are met before they start asking themselves to do new things again, but not you. You are a magical robot and you can do everything by yourself all the time without fail. You never have to stop. This is a lie. You can't do that. You will burn out. Don't do it. At the same time, when you do have executive dysfunction, it's not a shameful thing. It is a thing that can cause guilt if somebody expects you to be able to do something and you are unable to follow through because your brain doesn't let you do stuff. Like, that impacts people, and that's okay to apologize for. It's not a case of like, well, it's my executive dysfunction, it's part of my neurodivergence, so I'm allowed to do whatever. That's not how healthy relationships are made. So balancing executive dysfunction with like the need to communicate about it and the need to accommodate for it, that's one part of it. But also just the fact that like masking makes us function at such a like capacity and a higher like processing. Okay, I just read a cyborg romance novel, and so like the way that the like romantic lead, who is a synthetic human, describes like his processors and like creating simulations and like running, like scenarios and stuff to like figure out different potential outcomes, like probability. So like running like probability analyses and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's what it's like. That's what it's like to be anxious and autistic and have ADHD. Like, my processors are constantly operating and being like, okay, so this could happen, and then 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 this could happen. And at the end of the day, I'm like, so it's easier for me to just stay here and not do any of that because that's too much to deal with. And it's like overloading the circuits. It's like frying our brain. And that's not our fault. That's an operating system that can't handle how many neurons I'm firing at a time. That's fine. I understand the limitations of my human brain, but also your human brain is designed to be efficient. And so if your brain cannot be efficient and cannot identify like the most top priority task for you to do, then it will be like, you know what's easier? Shut down, don't make a decision. That's how our brains conserve energy, where if we had all of the executive function and capabilities, we would just follow our little ADHD brains all over the place and clean that for 10 minutes and clean that for 10 minutes and then write a blog post and then do this and that and the other thing. And it's like, I can do that a little better when I take my meds, when I have a cup of coffee. But at the same time, there's a line. There's a line where if I cross it and I start pushing myself to do more, by having more coffee or taking caffeine pills or like slamming another energy drink or something. And I'm like, no, I don't need a nap. I just need caffeine. Caffeine is a nap in a can. Don't be like me. Don't treat caffeine like a nap in a can. What happens then is that we are now like pushing into the internalized capitalism side of executive function, which is like, I must operate because society, because I should, because I need to be the most productive I can be in order to be worthy. No, thank you. So this episode, we're going to be talking about the internalized capitalism part of things. And I'm going to give you some examples of what that looks like. That looks like going to work when you are sick because society, because it's so normalized for us to be like, hey, I'm sick, I can't come to work today. And then the boss to say, you need to come in because otherwise we're short-staffed. That is a company level problem. That is a staff and management problem. That is not a sick person problem. My God. And then most of us don't have any paid sick time. So we are actively losing wages that we need to survive in our capitalist hellscape because we are ill. But becoming ill is a human thing that happens to humans. There's germs. We get sick. But that need to push through and be like, oh, it's just a cold. I'm fine. It's just mild COVID symptoms. I'll be fine. I'll walk it off. And that same system means that people send their kids to school sick because they can't afford to take the time off to keep their kid home from work. And so this just like perpetuates the problem. And we learn from a very early age to ignore our body's need for rest and recovery from illness, from fatigue, from overdoing it, like from whatever. We learn that we are allowed to eat and go to the bathroom and rest only at certain times, only when certain things have been performed first. Bad, not good, and not necessarily executive dysfunction. That's all internalized capitalism and hustle culture. Not my favorite thing. This also happens when we like try to multitask or like productivity hack the times when we do rest. So if you're sitting on the couch at the end of the day, you're watching some Netflix to relax before bed or whatever, and you maybe check your work emails. Now you're not resting, babe. Now you're working under the guise of rest. And then tomorrow when you're still tired and you're still exhausted and you still don't want to go to work, you're going to be like, I don't understand. I rested last night. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You worked wearing rest's clothing. And that doesn't count as rest because your body is smarter than you. It just is. It just knows stuff. And it knows that you're not actively resting. So like, you can't be on all the time. And yet, like the instant gratification nature of our culture right now is like, that makes us feel shame if we're not like on all the time, if we're not available for somebody's message in the middle of the night. Somebody's like, hey, you up? I need to talk. And like, you're going to feel bad in the morning when you see that and you were sleeping and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry I didn't see this. Are you okay? You're not obligated to wake up and be available for that person just because they were having a hard time. There's other people. Now, obviously, like there's nuance here. If it's somebody that you have said, like, call me day or night, anytime, I'm always here for you, like, and they're having a crisis, sure, call. But the idea that like you need to be available for any acquaintance who follows you on Instagram and sends you a DM at any hour of the day or night, that is a false assumption. You're not obligated to be on and available at all times for everybody ever. And so now like the executive function piece of it is like executive dysfunction comes into play when the processors are going too fast, right? So if you are trying to always be available, trying to always be healthy or appear healthy and not show anybody that you're sick or tired, you're trying to get a little bit more work done before you take a break to eat, and you are like never letting yourself play or do anything fun until your to-do list is handled. Like that's a lot of paradigm in your brain that you have to process. And it's hard to make decisions and prioritize things that need done when you're holding on to so many arbitrary rules. So masking and executive dysfunction, I think, go hand in hand. For me, I used to be able to executive function like a boss. I could do everything. I was working out once or twice a day. I was getting up before the sun. I was making all my meals homemade. I was commuting to and from work 5 days a week. I was cooking dinner for my husband. I was doing all these things. And now I cannot understand how I did all those things because I could not do it anymore. If I woke up tomorrow and was like, okay, I'm going to start getting up at 4:30, running 3 miles, and making a home-cooked breakfast and a home-cooked dinner and a home-cooked lunch to pack for my commute, and I have to be on the road by 7:30 so I can get to work by 8:30. Who the fuck was that? There's no way. There's no way I could do that again. And I would never ask myself to. That feels horrible. It sounds horrible to me. Because I am now at a place where I'm unmasked enough and recovered enough from so many things. So first of all, figured out I was autistic and had ADHD, figured out I had an eating disorder, figured out I had fibromyalgia. So like in the past 6 years, I just became disabled. I realized all of my disabilities. They existed before, but they weren't disabling me because I didn't slow down enough for any of them to say, hey, hi, I'm here, and you are making mistakes. And then when I finally did slow down enough to like realize the full body pain I'm in all the time isn't just from working out, and how tired I am isn't going away even when I rest properly. There's more to it than just not sleeping enough or pushing myself too hard. I thought I was just like girl bossing at the gym, right? I was like, ooh, I'm so strong. I'm so awesome. I get up so early and go to the gym. I'm doing great. No, it turns out I had fibromyalgia and I was harming myself a lot, but I thought I was being so productive. And that is what sucks about productivity culture, is that we prioritize productivity, profit, perfectionism over our human needs. And that is why executive dysfunction is seen as laziness and like just sort of choosing not to do something, when in fact, it is a product of like trying to do everything and then freezing, like over processing, burning out, and not knowing where to begin because there are so many pieces at play. So if that's you and you are finding yourself in more and more executive dysfunction as you unmask, as you age and realize that you're autistic or neurodivergent in another way, you've got ADHD, mental illness, complex trauma, whatever it is, like, please accommodate yourself for that. And please be forgiving and self-compassionate when you are stuck in an executive dysfunction loop, because it's not your fault. It's a normal part of your brain's operations. And it's also it's not the end of the world. It's going to feel like it, especially if you were like an overachiever like me. But what can be helpful is breaking it down like tiny step by tiny step and allowing yourself to just like start somewhere, anywhere. Roll a die. I love rolling a die. When in doubt, I write a list of 20 things, roll a 20-sided die, and let that decide where I start. And for some reason that like breaks me out of the funk of it. And I'm like, okay, I can do that piece. And then I just do that piece. And it's not my favorite. I would prefer to just be able to do things. Just do a whole thing, A to Z, all the steps. But sometimes I can't. And that's okay. And it's okay that you can't either. So like when it comes to my next art project, I'm probably just going to move this giant pile of stuff that needs to get put away. I'm probably just going to move that aside and then use that table to make art, because I get to choose that the art is more important than the clean. So there you go. That's for you. Dice, prioritizing based on what you want to do and not making yourself do the domino effect list of tasks that comes like before that thing. Just start in the middle. It's wild. It's wild. So start something in the middle. Tell me how that goes. Share in the comments. And yeah, tell me your thoughts on executive dysfunction, because everybody's is different and I can only speak to what I have experienced. So thanks for being here with me today, and I'll see you next week. If you are ready to take that "it is not your fault" release of shame and reclaiming of your creative passions in our capitalist hellscape, you will want to mark your calendars for April 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for my upcoming training, Art is Revolution. This is going to be dope. Our society values productivity, perfection, and profit over passion. Not on my watch. This training is your invitation to come soak up the creative energy and reclaim your passion in this hustle-obsessed culture on your terms. You are creative. I help you believe that. So if you are ready to believe it, head on over to askfishfisher.com and sign up for Art is Revolution 2024. And again, that is happening April 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I cannot wait to see you there. And as always, I would love to give a shout out to the Pancake Copycats, my podcast producers who specialize in marketing support for neurodivergent entrepreneurs, as well as Ashton Powers, singer-songwriter who wrote and performed my opening jingle. Okay, friends, I will see you next time.